everybody, it's the War Hipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we are painting the brand new Scinari Enlightener, the new Lumineth Realm Lords character that is included in the new set Arcane Cataclysm from Games Workshop, which they've sent to me early to review and paint for all of you. I'm very excited to do this. I'm really enjoying painting Lumineth again at the moment, and well, we're just going to jump in and we're going to start painting her. She has been primed in Wraithbone, as is standard for all of our Lumineth Realm Lords videos so far on the channel, and the first colour we're going to be using is Corax White. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying this over the top of the trousers, the undershirt and the armour. Now you might be thinking, why don't we just prime this with the new White Scar primer as well? Let's go the whole hog. Well, the reason we don't do that is because we want this to be easier to correct. So if we do it with White Scar, we don't have an accurate paint with which to correct any mistakes that we might make later on. For example, when painting the armor and doing the trim, you might overlap with the gold a little bit, and at that point you then have to use some thinned down White Scar, which is fine, but the paint is notoriously difficult to work with, and we don't want to make it any more difficult for ourselves to paint these models. And actually, White Scar is just that little bit too bright for the armor, so we would need to darken it down anyway. So in many ways, this is just a case of it takes a little bit longer to paint these because we're starting with a base paint, but the time saved in the long run is immense. So we're just going to be getting it all over these details. I should also add that we're going to be painting this all over the length of the staff as well. It's important to remember, because that is going to be the same colour as the rest of the armour. So with that done, what we're now going to do is move on to painting in some of those base coats. Now the first one we're going to add is all of the brown leather, and the colour that we're going to be using for this is Cygor Brown. Now this is going to include areas such as the boots, like this. There's a little pouch on her hip just there as well. And they've got the kind of binding slash corset style area on their backs as well, just in there. As well as her gloves. So with that done, what we're now going to do is move on, and we're going to paint in the trousers and the undershirt. And the colour we're going to be using for this is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Frostheart. And what we want to do is just want to pick a place to start. I'm just going to start just here. We want to get a nice smooth coat of this mix all over. Just like this. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to work on the outside of the cape, and this is a really lovely dark blue. Now the colour we're going to be using first for this is going to be Stormfiend. What we want to do is we want to load up our brush here with the Stormfiend, and we just want to go in these big broad brush strokes, remembering that it starts around here. That was more for me than anyone else. We just want to start painting this all over. Just like this. So with that Stormfiend applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Ultramarines Blue and we're going to apply this over the top of the Stormfiend. Just whilst we're waiting for that to dry, what we're then going to do is going to take some Skeleton Horde and we're going to apply this to the inside of the cape. And so with that Skeleton Horde applied, what we then do is we take some Tyran Blue and we apply this over the top of our dark blue cape. Like this. This just brings the colour down a little bit more whilst adding in a touch of warmth. Just like that. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Seraphim Sepia and we're going to use this in a couple of different ways. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the Seraphim Sepia just as it is over the top of this kind of horn type area. Like this. I knew I could see a tiny little bit of hair, a little bit of dust. If you're wondering why I was being weirdly indecisive there. Like so. And what we're also going to do is going to use the Seraphim Sepia to add a little bit of kind of shading to the internals of this cloak. So we're just going to add it coming down around about here. And we're going to add it coming down here. Kind of just leaving this skeleton hoardy area just there in the middle. I'm also going to add it coming underneath here and down here, like so. And if that line is a little bit too prominent, You can wash the brush and then just smooth out that transition just that little bit, like that. Do the same thing on that side as well if you want to. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Asurmen Blue. I'm going to apply this over all of the tassels and strings, and ribbons, and various little details like this. For example, we've got the ribbons here on the scabbard, and we've got the strings going around her head and around her hair as well. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Flesh Tearers Red. I'm going to apply this to the sword handle up here, like that. What we're also going to do is we're going to apply this to the sword scabbard. So with that Flesh Tearers Red applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to apply this over the top of the red scabbard. Like that. And we're also going to apply this over the top of her hair. So with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some Guilliman Flesh. I'm going to apply this over her face. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Casandora Yellow. I'm going to apply this to the rune up here in her hand. Now what we're going to do is we're going to load up the brush with Casandora Yellow, like this. Get a nice solid amount on your brush, and you're basically just going to whack this all over the rune. Just like that. Then what you're going to do is wash the brush, and then just towards the top, I'm basically going to mop it up. Like that. You can add a little bit more Casandora Yellow to the bottom. And ultimately, we want this to be a very, very pale yellow. Just like that. We want to do this on both sides. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to work on those metallics. Now the first colour we're going to be using is Retributor Armour. We're going to be using this for all of our warm gold details. So this is going to include areas such as most of the details on the staff, such as this area at the bottom. Like that. It's going to include the rune on the chest. like that, as well as decorative features on the sword and the scabbard, and anywhere else that you want to be this lovely warm gold. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Liberator Gold, and we're going to use this to paint in all of the trim. This is our cold gold, and we're just going to be picking out all of it. Just like this sort of thing. So with that done, it's now time to add some shades to the model. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with some Guilliman Flesh. We're going to use this on all of our warm gold. It's going to be areas that we just did with the Retributor Armour. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to use this to shade all of our cold gold. So everywhere that we painted with the Liberator Gold. So with that done, our Scinari Enlightener is now what I would call a war hipster battle ready. She's looking pretty fabulous. However, we're not going to leave it there. No, we are going to take her to the next level. I'm going to do this by adding some layers and some highlights. Now the first one we're going to add is Blue Horror. I'm going to be thinning this down just a little bit more than normally. And we're going to be essentially relayering her trousers and her shirt. Just avoiding the deepest recesses. Of which there aren't many, on the trousers in particular. Just like that. Now it might take 2 goes round because Blue Horror is quite thin, a little bit temperamental at times, hence why we've thinned it down just that little bit more. But you might really like it after 1 layer, as it has a little bit more of that base coat shining through. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to move on, and we're going to use some thinned down Corax White, and we're going to use this to do a couple of things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use this to pick out the white bordering on the cloak. Like that sort of thing, and it continues around on the back. And what we're also going to do is we're going to use this Corax White to essentially do a little bit of a cleanup job on our armor and the staff, should we need to. So for example, a little bit too much Agrax Earthshade just there, and we've got some little blue mistakes just under here. Like so. What we're also going to do with this Corax White is going to use it to add just a little couple of highlights to the top section of the rune. around about there on those corners. Is where you want it to finish, like so. With that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to highlight our cloak. Now the colour we're going to be using first for this is Alaitoc Blue. And what we're going to do is we're just going to thin some down on our palette, and we're just going to start picking out the edges in the cloak. Just with a nice highlight, just like that. So with that Alaitoc Blue applied, we're then going to take some Hoeth Blue. We're going to apply this as a little kind of spot highlight at either end of each of our Alaitoc Blue lines. So I'm just going to add a little bit up here. And a little bit just there. Like that. And then similarly at the bottom. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Baneblade Brown. We're going to use this to highlight both the boots, the gloves, and the hair. We just want to be very careful here. It'll be a nice, precise highlight. Just picking out all the edges, just like this. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Mournfang Brown. I'm going to use this to highlight our sword scabbard. And with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take a tiny amount of Skrag Brown. I'm going to apply this, going up this middle section. Just like that. So with that scabbard all done, it's now time to work on the face. And the colour we're going to be using first for this is Flayed One Flesh. And what we're going to do here is it's essentially a full relayering, just avoiding any of the deepest recesses. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Pallid Witch Flesh. I'm going to use this to highlight the sharpest details around the face, just like this. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is going to take a tiny amount of Black Legion. I'm going to apply this over the top of the eyeballs. Like this. And so with that done, what we then want to do is we want to take a tiny dot of Screaming Skull. I want to apply it in each corner of the eyes. Like that. You can see I've already done it on that side. So with that done, it's time to move on because the face is now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the metallics, and the first one we're going to use is Liberator Gold. I'm going to be using this to highlight all of our warm gold. Just like this. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to highlight all of our cold gold. And the colour we're going to be using for that is a rough mix of 2 parts Stormhost Silver to 1 part Retributor Armour. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take small amounts of this on our brush. And we're going to start picking out all of that trim once again. Just like this. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Magos Purple. We're going to apply this over the top of our gems. So with that done, the Scinari Enlightener herself is now finished and she looks fantastic. All that's left to do is that base. And I'm just going to show you very quickly how I'm going to do this. And to keep her in line with the rest of the Lumineth that I've done, the first colour I'm going to be using is Gryph-Charger Grey. And I'm going to be using this on all of the rocks. And with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Gore-Grunta Fur. We're going to apply this to this kind of mossy growth here on the rock, like this. We've got one on the back here as well. And we're also going to use this paint in the tree branches. And with that done, we're then going to take some Dark Angel's Green. I'm going to apply this over the top of the leaves. So with that done, all that's left to do is to add in the texture paint and a final dry brush. And well, I'm not going to film that because we've done that so many times before, but the two that we're using here are Sturden Battlemire. Then we'll give it a dry brush of Tyrant Skull all over, and then we'll add a couple of tufts here and there. And the Scinari Enlightener is done. And so with that base complete, the Scinari Enlightener is now finished. And this was a lot of fun to paint. It's a really, really cool new character, continuing the tradition of Lumineth characters sort of balancing on the top of small rocks. I have been enjoying painting these guys again. It's been a lot of fun, and it's just such a striking colour scheme, the Emetrica scheme. Just really, really pleased with how it comes out. And again, like with the Blade Lords, having Agrax Earthshade and Asurmen Blue, for example, in the arsenal just makes them all that more accurate. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you can now become a YouTube channel member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, exactly like these awesome folks have done. And if you just want to shoot me a little thanks just because you really love this video, you can click on the thanks button just below this video.
Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.